she's just a consummate professional. I mean, she can play any instrument. You know, she just walked in ready to go. And how can you mend a broken heart? Pretty much like Olivia, was almost instant. It was just instant. And everything we did was like that, you know. Nobody spent too much time trying to figure out how they sang. They just sang. And Sheryl was one of those people where it just comes out. It's just there. And she's amazing. She's amazing.
Yeah, I love Sheryl. Too. Yeah, no, she's one of my favorite female singer-songwriters.
She told me her nickname was the bitch.
Really?
Yeah. but that was an affectionate thing.
Right.
Somebody had mentioned that with behind her back at an airport, and she's kept it ever since.
Really?
The way that. Yeah, and the way that I'm Barry effing Gibb, you know, it's like somewhere along the way somebody gives you a tag and it never goes away.
Well, she's interesting because she didn't become famous until she was in her 30s, and so maybe it was easier to cope with the fame because it came to her a little bit later, as opposed to you guys, and you're famous as teenagers.
Well, you know, you're famous in Brisbane, which there was no national television in Brisbane, so, you know, we had to get to the big smoke, which was Sydney. And you know, you could, once you were on Bandstand, people started to figure out who you were or what you were, you know. But, yeah, we were kids. But, you know, I'm not so sure what's best, whether you become famous later or whether you become famous early. I don't know the difference. I can't tell. But I do think there's a way of thinking that gets you through. There's a way of thinking. There's a commitment you have to make to yourself. And it gets you through everything, you know. And you develop about 2 or 3 different skins. So if anyone's got any criticism, it doesn't mean anything to you, you know. And with blood pressure, you can't lose your temper. You can't get angry about anything.
Yeah. It's interesting thinking about what drove you to want to have that fame. You know, what was it, you think, when you cast your mind back to when you were doing a bit of shoplifting and things, and that conversation you had with Rob and Maurice on the pier at Redcliffe about throwing all the stuff you'd nicked, you know, into the water.
That 3 pen knives, it actually was, yeah. Yeah. And we just decided we had to stop breaking the law. You know, we had to make up our minds whether we wanted to really be famous or did we want to go to prison, you know. And that was it. We stopped then. And began to take everything we were doing musically seriously.
Mm.
We didn't become that good for a good few years, but it was the 3-part harmony that attracted everybody. So, you know, we just battled on. The songs were not developed, so we were not mature songwriters at that point. But we were on a mission, you know.
Possibly the song that's been recorded by more people than any other is "To Love Somebody," and Jay Buchanan has done that on the new album. What did you think of his take on a song that everyone's done?
Fantastic. But what a range, you know. And if you were in that room, you'd realize why the sound is the way it is. It's like the room is huge, and it's the highest room you could ever see. So I think height has a lot to do with big-sounding records, you know. And when he started to get up there towards the end of "To Love Somebody," he backed off the microphone, and what you hear is the ambience of this room coming into play, not the microphone. And so that was really interesting because his voice just resonated around the room and created a different kind of sound, you know, a big sound.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. Great to hear that explanation. Rest Your Love on Me. I wonder, the story of this one, it's written at the height of the Saturday Night Fever, Spirits Having Flown era. And it's as pure a country song as you've ever written. And did that just happen because, as we know, you've always loved country, or was it a slight kind of middle finger to people trying to pigeonhole you as disco?
Absolutely not. No, it never entered my head. That kind of attitude never came into my head. I was just always writing. And on that day, I was just tinkering with the piano. and I found the key I was able to play in on the piano, and that's how the song came about. But it never had anything to do with anything else, political or otherwise, you know. No, we didn't think about that. It's like saying that Grease was done to give the finger the fever, you know.
Yeah.
Those things didn't happen.
Right.
You know?
How good are you on piano? Because Albie Galutin says you are one of the greatest rhythm guitarists ever. And that's not mentioned enough. He says the rhythm in Barry Gibb's right hand is astounding. But what?
Wow, isn't that strange? I would never have expected Albie to say that, but he's been very sweet, and we have actually talked. I talked with him maybe about a month ago, and Carl.
Good.
Because I needed them to know that I love them, and I didn't want us to all just fade into our own lives and never speak to each other again. You know, and the pandemic. You know, you start to think, well, who should I tell I really care? You know? And so I started doing that. And so, yeah, that's very nice for Albie to say that.
Yeah.
But you know, in answer to your question, no, I can't play the piano, but I can play with the piano.
Right.
I'm very jealous of anyone who can literally just play. You know.
Well, like Maurice.
So, yeah. Hey?
Like Maurice. I mean, Maurice could play most instruments, couldn't he?
Maurice is a good pianist, a really good pianist. But I can't do that. And Maurice was a bass player in the beginning, and then he became very, very sort of. He would switch around and get to the piano. So when we were getting into that whole dance routine thing, Maurice was not comfortable on bass doing that, so he switched to piano and he stayed that way. You know?
Isn't that interesting? Because you think his bass on "You Should Be Dancing" is a stunning bass line, and
yeah,
but he didn't feel comfortable.
Well, it was just that's just Mo. You know, he realized over time that he was a better keyboard player than he was a bass player, and that's his decision. That was his opinion about himself. You know. He was a good lead guitarist. You know, he could apply himself to just about any instrument, with a few exceptions, of course. But the piano, we fell in love with the piano, and that's how it was. So How Can You Mend a Broken Heart was like that. That really features Mo on piano. And Lonely Days, those two songs were done in one day. So I think it's just the excitement, and that was a comeback thing. But Mo just switched around. At some point, he didn't really want to play bass anymore. You know?
Just on Lonely Days and How Can You Mend a Broken Heart, do you know why they were put on two separate albums? You know, I always wonder that. No. These two amazing songs, and as far as the comeback's concerned, if they were on one album, that would have been a bigger album.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I can tell you for a fact that we never chose album covers. And we never chose singles. So Robert would choose the singles because he had an ear for that. He knew what radio was going to accept. And so we let those people, I think that's the lesson, is let people who really know what they're doing do what they do and don't get in their way, you know. And you start to recognize that. There are people who are brilliant at certain things. And that's how we made the records, you know. And the Mr. Natural album, I would never have put that on the cover. I would never have had that guy at the bar.
Yeah.
You know, it had nothing to do with the album at all. So there were a main chorus.
With the naked lady and the spoon.
Yeah. Come on. Well, we were never given the chance to object to that.
That's interesting.
The first time we got to design an album cover was Spirits Having Flown.
Right.
And certainly not Fever, because we would never have wanted to be on the cover with John. And John would not have wanted to be on the cover with us. And the album itself was a double album, so it wasn't just us. So it didn't feel right, you know, but we had no say of it on that. You know?
Gosh, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. I mean, with Main Course, because, you know, it was a different time. Obviously, you wouldn't put a naked lady and a spoon on an album cover now.
I don't know.
Maybe you would.
I don't know what it meant in the first place.
Yeah, I know.
This Green album with a lady on a spoon. What's that got to do with the album? You know?
Well, I mean, I guess it was a pun on the name Main Course, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
What?
But I don't think the spoon was meant to infer that.
Right, okay. But one of your best ever albums, too.
Yeah, we never really did have anything to do with those kinds of things. It was only after Main Course and Children of the World, we designed that cover.
Right, in the jackets.
Because we wanted to have fun. We didn't want to come across as dead serious.
Yeah.
And David English, who's one of our friends, as you know, gave us all these pipes. And we started dressing up as RAF people, even when we were doing shows.
Right.
So he triggered all that. And the next thing you know, we've all got, rank? I was commander, and I was wing commander. David was wing commander.
Yeah.
And it was just like everyone had a title, It was just a way of having fun and not really making it all like work.
Yeah. It's funny, I heard from a Bee Gees fan who went to that bar in New York that was on the cover of Mr. Natural to recreate it.
Oh, my God.
That's next level.
Yeah, but I can't tell you what that cover's all about, and I don't think anyone can tell me.
Yeah. I mean, there are some amazing songs on that album too, and one of the things about the Bee Gees is that they were always big somewhere. It wasn't necessarily everywhere at the same time. But Mr. Natural, the year before Main Course and Jive Talking, the Mr. Natural song that was actually a bigger hit in Australia than Jive Talking was the year after. Mr. Natural was
How
big.
Amazing.
It was big in Australasia.
I've heard people tell me that that's their favorite album, but I never thought it was. First of all, it wasn't a hit in anywhere else, and that's happened to us a lot. Where you have a big record in America but not in England, or you can have a big record around the world but not America. So we've always had that kind of, hit or miss thing about multiple countries. The one thing that always aggravated me was different countries wanting different singles.
Mm.
That was tough, and it wasn't right. It wasn't the way to treat the artist. You put out a single, that's it. That's what you're promoting, that's the single. But America wanted one type of single, and England wanted another. So if you did promotion, you had to do two different singles.
Mm.
And that was a real aggravation for me.
Yeah, and I mean, it seems of a different era, but those anomalies exist when you realize, I Started a Joke wasn't released in England, and How Can You Mend a Broken Heart wasn't released in England. That's
right. Well, I don't know if they were released. I just know that they were big hits everywhere but England, And so we were never part of the machinery. We didn't know whether something was released here or there or not, or Germany. But I Started a Joke is a classic. But I think that maybe management or having that kind of organization behind you was already moving in other directions. Robert wanted to make movies, and it was already beginning to splinter, And RSO was already on its road to winding itself up, And so Fever was basically Grease. Grease was probably the last of the big things that Robert did, with Alan Carr, of course. But we were no longer the focus of attention for Robert.
Yeah.
So a lot of things we were trying to come up with ourselves, but we were no longer friends with our manager, so that was not so hot, But we had to get our songs back. That was more important than anything else in our lives.
And how did you repair that relationship with Robert? Because you did repair it years before he passed. Yeah. We
settled, and Robert gave us all of our songs back. From then on, we began to talk again, and over the final years of Robert's life, we could not have been closer. So, you can have these kinds of things happening in your life, but you still end up caring about each other, and you still end up being friends because you've been through so much together. And I think that took over. That sort of took over. And so Robert understood that our songs had been taken away from us illegitimately.
Yeah.
And he had to address it. There was no other option.
Well, I'm pleased you fought for it. Yeah. Yeah. I just love that these deep cuts are being rediscovered because, of course, there are going to be the famous songs being done, and it's important for those famous songs to keep being covered so that they keep living on. But for me, as a diehard fan, the kick that I get out of Butterfly being recorded, and you with Jason Isbell doing Words of a Fool, to bring new songs to light, old new songs to light, is a real thrill, isn't it?
Well, it is. It is for me. And there's other songs. There's other songs, mate, that no one knows about yet, that will end up being recorded by some of these people. And there will be a volume 2. I pray that now I really believe there will. I wouldn't have known 2 weeks ago, but now I believe there will. And I'm hoping for a trilogy. I really am. And if I get a trilogy, then I got a box set. Of all the best songs recorded by the most beloved country artists, and that's my dream.
Wow,
that's why it says Volume 1.
Yeah. Well, so there was obviously foresight and hope that there could be another volume. I mean, I can suggest some songs for you, Barry. I'm sure you've.
I want you to.
You do?
I want you to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here we go. I've written down a couple for Volume 2. Victim. Do you remember Victim from...
Of course I do. Someone picked him, he is the victim. Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's a little immature, but
that song is and because there's a little precursor to How Can You Mend a Broken Heart. I mean, this is going back to 1970.
Yes. For who can mend a broken heart?
Yeah.
When there's no one else around.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it's still in there. That's amazing.
No. I think that's a very strong possibility. South Dakota Morning is a very strong possibility.
Good. From Life in a Tin Can.
Yeah.
Because
in fact, Linda is the one who keeps saying you've got to do that song. You've got to record South Dakota Morning again with one of these people. It'll all happen. Yeah, go on. Have you got any more?
Yeah, I've got plenty more. When my wife and I got married, the song for the signing of the registry was Sun in My Morning. Now, I don't know if you can remember, your wedding day and how long it takes to sign the registry. It's actually surprisingly long. And anyway, so we just got the DJ to play that song like 3 times.
Yeah, I have sun in my morning and my moon and night. Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful song.
Yeah, that's a possibility. That's a strong possibility. Don't forget to remember it's a strong possibility.
Absolutely. Because Cucumber Castle was really your great Americana album of the catalog,
Yeah, and there's a couple of songs. The song called The Lord, I think would be great, done with the right people.
What about Bury Me Down by the River?
That one too.
Yeah.
And let me think. Yeah, there's a couple.
Sweetheart.
Apart from Don't Forget to Remember, there's a couple of others that are quite strong. That might look towards a second or third album. I don't know.
Because Sweetheart, Engelbert Humperdinck,
there you go.
He had a hit with that.
No, Dean Martin recorded it.
Well, they both did.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But there you go. That's the song that Maurice and I recorded after Robin left the group.
Yeah.
So that was right in that window there, that we should do that.
Bury Me Down by the River and Then You Left Me from Cucumber Castle. Would be
I thought
perfect.
About that. Yeah, Then You Left Me. Possible. Not sure. Need to hear it again.
Born also from The Kid's No Good. Yeah. Oh, here's a good one. What were we going to say about Born? What can you remember? Anything, don't worry.
Recording it with P.P. Arnold.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was doing a number of songs for her at that point, and Born was one of them.
Would you ever release that album, The Kid's No Good? Would you ever go, look, here it is, the unreleased album from 1970?
Yeah, but you know what? The master disappeared. The master of that album disappeared, was never seen again. I think that was a political move because if I'd have released that album at that point, then the Bee Gees would not have been able to go back in the studio at that point. So that's happened to me a number of times. That's happened to me enough, where it was just don't let anyone put out a solo album because we need the Bee Gees in the studio, And the brand name became more important, so it was very difficult to do something on your own. It was quite difficult. I think that's what happened with that.
Because they can be tidied. I mean, they're all over YouTube, but yeah, obviously the sound quality is not perfect. Come Home, Johnny Bridie.
Yeah, there's one. Now you told me that was one of your favorites, but it's a strong possibility for that one. Strong.
What else have I got? Lost in Your Love from Mr. Natural.
Oh my God. Yeah, Lost in Your Love is great. Songbird, I love. There are songs on that album that will never leave me. I just to me that's one of my favorite albums we ever made. Well, Jive Talking already done it, but there you go. There's other songs on that album.
Yeah, and then even the tracks from Kenny's Eyes That See in the Dark, because you nailed it. I was talking with your son Ash the other day about the demos from Eyes That See in the Dark, which you did digitally release some years ago. Yeah. And man, those demos are good. Evening Star and Buried Treasure and Midsummer Nights.
I love Evening Star with the Gatlin brothers and making that album with Kenny, that was a pleasure. That was a pleasure. Evening Star, Jesus. I love that song.
Oh, it's great because it's got that sort of overlapping melody, and where you take the last word of one line and then it meshes with the first word of the next line. Sentence of the next line.
That was one of the songs on that album that was literally played live. I mean, there was a real band playing Evening Star, and not every record was like that. So it was another great experience. Jeez. We got the chance to work with Roy Orbison, and we did a song called
Indian Summers.
Hey?
Indian Summers?
In the Indian Summer, yeah. And the Gatlins did that, but then someone ran away with it and mixed it themselves, and I was really unhappy.
Gosh, yeah.
Working with Roy Orbison, incredible.
Well, there's a video of that, and I can see that you are just thrilled to be in the presence of one of your biggest heroes with Roy Orbison.
Absolutely. And you know what? His voice was no different. When you really wanted the high range, I asked his wife, I said, how do I get Roy to really get up there, She said, just ask him. And she said, he's got no ego at all. She said, just ask him. And I asked him, and he did it right away.
Wow. Yeah.
So there was a true genius.
Yeah. I've thought up another one, Blue Island from Sizes and Everything.
Oh, great. Yeah, now we were talked into doing that by Alan Kovac because he wanted one of those songs that were just us with acoustics.
Yeah.
And that's how that one came about. But when you think back, that's a pretty nice song.
Mm.
It's pretty nice. Yeah, that's a possibility.
Well,
a strong one.
If I keep thinking up, well, I do keep thinking up these songs. I mean, they're The First Mistake I Ever Made is also another contender.
Yeah, and there's another one like that. I can't think. Live Inside Myself. Don't want to live inside myself. That was same period.
Yeah.
Same period.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a deep well, and you've done as a bonus track, one of the bonus tracks, In the Morning, and I keep coming back to this kind of the spirituality in some of your songs, that in the morning you've got the song tells the story of in the morning and then in the daytime and in the evening, and right. When it hits in the evening and the harmonies get stronger. And it kind of feels like the seasons of a person's life, albeit only 3 seasons. But it is. It feels like that.
It's a reflection of growing up. It's a reflection of growing up, and really, it's so true of my own life. In the morning, I'll be on the beach, and taking all that in and loving just the idea of the paradise we were living in. And, in the daytime, I will begin to get attracted to other people, other ladies, and you grow and you become a teenager. And then really, I didn't think that was going to be a bonus track. I just didn't. I hadn't finished with it. I hadn't finished doing the vocal because there's no harmony on that track, you know. And I really wanted someone to do it with me to sing the harmonies. So it wasn't even the best vocal for me. It wasn't even the best vocal. In the Morning has never been recorded properly. So I look forward to the day when I can maybe do that.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, because there's the first version in Australia, and then you did what I thought was a stunning version for the Melody soundtrack.
That's right.
But
I was never happy with it.
Really?
I was never happy with it. No. But you can't, you know, you have your own opinion, and I just thought, almost.
Yeah.
Almost wonderful.
Well, if that's almost wonderful, that's pretty good. Hey, what would you put on your list of things post-COVID that you'd really like to do? And whether that's touring, whether that's another road trip in Australia with you and Dick Ashby just driving hundreds of kilometers, or you know, what would you really like to do?
I'd like to do more shows. I love being on stage, and I love the people who care about our music. That's it in a nutshell. You know, I don't. I want to make more records. I'm certainly not ready to sit down and just fade away. No. And this is another chapter for me, and I intend to see it through. So, it's that's how it feels. I have to keep going because I know there's another big moment yet, and maybe we're entering it now. You know. The people understand my brothers and will understand what we were trying to do, and that some things in life were basically projects. And beyond that, we just wanted to write songs and have them succeed and have other people sing our songs.
Mm.
You know, isn't that what you do? That's the whole mission. You know.
Well, as we've said before, the dream came true. I've just thought up another song, Barry, Marley Pert Drive. How did we not mention Marley Pert Drive?
Oh, Marley Pert Drive's got to be in there. That's a definite. That's a definite. And it's a great song. I love that song. I don't know where it came from, but I love it.
Well, where that came from. I mean, 15 kids in a family on the skids got to go for a Sunday drive. and then by the end of the song, it's an orphanage full of 35 kids.
You realize there's a truth. You know, and go figure that one. I never understand.
That's one of the songs I play to any people who don't know so much about the Bee Gees, and so let's say they know the Fever era, and I say have a listen to this, boom, and I put on Marley Pert Drive, and their minds are blown.
Wow, I see. Just young people don't have those memories, you know, and so it's new to them, you know. I don't know. There are definitely songs like that I do not remember coming up with. But I do love Marley Pert Drive, and that's definitely on the next album. Johnny Bridie might be on the next album. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That, you know, that there are those gems, Elisa from that era, King and Country, you know, those are beautiful tracks.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I love King and Country. I remember the song about the horse, King Kathy. I think there was another one that I don't think was ever released. Yeah. And I don't know. There are songs I'll never forget, and there are songs I'll never remember. So, but everyone you've mentioned, I remember, but I don't remember how every song came about.
Yeah.
You know?
And I mean, and I've just sort of been suggesting the ones which sound more Americana, but you know, the fact is that on Greenfields Volume 1 there are songs which in their original form were not Americana. But you know, For Whom the Bell Tolls, for example, is
that's going on. Yeah.
Is an astoundingly good song, and this is a bit like what we were talking about before. That was a UK top 5, so it was big in the UK, never released in the US, and but a number 1 hit in South America. You know, massive hit in Argentina and Brazil.
Wow, didn't know that. I did not know that.
Yeah, so always somewhere, you know.
Yeah, I never understand that. This difference between America and Europe and the games that the record companies were falling into, which was 2 different singles or, you know, released in 2 different territories, and you have to promote both of them and all that madness.